So now what we're going to do is worry about getting the internal mechanisms all put together. Now, for this you're going to need your remaining pieces here. If you remember last time we measured and cut them all. We're also going to need a little bit of hot glue. So make sure you got that warming up just nicely. We're also going to need the little scrap piece that we took off, if you remember. The little 3-inch pieces. This will come in handy for easier measuring. You'll need, again, your sharp knife. Always have that. Measuring tape, pen or pencil. And then, of course, you're also going to need your dowel. And to remind everybody, this one was a 1/2 inch by 36 inches. Measured every 3.5 inches, I do believe. Let's double check. Yep, measured every 3.5 inches. So for this, you're going to need 3 of these, and you can either saw them, cut them. I just use, because it's cheaper wood, so I just use the blade of my knife, and I just rock it back and forth while pushing pressure down, and you know, a couple rolls back, and I have a piece off. You can kind of see how easy that went. If you're going to use thicker material, this will take either longer, or if you got like a quick little saw, hand saw, regular miter saw, either one, they're all going to be fairly easy and faster to cut. I have it, but it's slightly early in the morning, and don't want to go and haul it out of my little storage unit. I don't use it too often for any of my builds that I do. So those are the 3 pieces you're going to need. So next what we're going to do is make the cuts. And I've already made half of the cuts here, but I'm going to show you what we're going to do on this side. So remember, follow your front. This is where your mechanism goes. And turn it this way so it's a little easier. And what we're going to do here is measure out from the very beginning of the front, not the beginning, the front of the box. You're going to measure 2 inches out. Those 2. And also 4.5. This will work just fine. Then what we're going to do is measure 1 inch up from the top and the bottom of it. Now these were cut to 1 inch, and if you want to use that same piece, or even just the little 3-inch pieces that we have, that's the same thing. Make sure if it's cut like this, how that's beveled, go to the very top piece, the lid part. So I have a longer stick line. Alright. So you're basically just left with a little tic-tac-toe section. Now what you're supposed to do, you need to do this also on the centerpiece support and also on the back support. Now that's where this little 3-inch piece comes in handy. You just put this right on the top here. That gives you your inch measurement. And then of course here's your other end that's open. So there's that mark there. Just kind of eyeball it in the middle doesn't have to be precise. So now we have our marks. What we're going to do first is cut just between the two marks. And kind of take your time with the very end, each end of it. You don't want to make these lines too, you don't want to cut farther than it is, otherwise that gives your bow piece more movement than what should be really necessary. These ones are a little bit more tricky, and that's because of the glue. It's just only holding it, so kind of support it with your other hand. Do not cut yourself. Please don't cut yourself. This really hurts to cut yourself, as one might guess. Okay. Now, you can see one's wider than the other one, and that's where a good flathead screwdriver comes in handy. And all you're really doing is you're just pushing it up just to widen it. And as long as you have good play in it, then that's pretty much as much as you need to widen. Of course, if you're using a thicker material, you're going to have to wedge it just a little bit more to get that little bit of free play. Simple movement through the things, just like that. That's what you want. You don't want to just kind of go fall in and move back and forth. So that is reasonably good play there. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is going to take one of our long pieces that we had cut and measured, and go ahead and slide it through those two holes till roughly 5-6 inches are sitting out the back. And then we're going to take our two cut pieces here, slide them through the sides until they're adjacent to one another. So I just kind of pulled it so that way these line up straight, and making sure that they are right up against each corner on each side. So once that's in place, then you can realign this piece right here. And that gives you your rough estimate of where it's at. Okay? So once that's there, go ahead and take your marking tool, and on either side, it doesn't really matter, just kind of mark a little simple line there and a simple line right there. So one's on the middle and one's on the back, and then go ahead and pull that back out. So what you've done with these marks is made a spot where your walls are at, because our next thing is to make the supports for this. So when it moves, the whole thing moves all at once, and the bow expands as it should. So roughly, you want to find the middle of these, and I just kind of go the same. So I put like a little mark right there, a little mark there, and then right in the middle, a little mark right there. So those will be our holes. Now I have a drill that's going to make my hole in those spots. And so I can line them up like this, like they're supposed to be lined up, to make the mark. If you don't have one, I recommend using a Phillips screwdriver. It's got the point to make your mark in both spots, both woods, and that way you can slowly move it around. You don't want to horse it too much, because if not, you'll crack this in half. And what you want to do is just make your hole just barely big enough to fit this in. So like I said, I have a drill. So that's what I'm going to use. A little 1/2 inch drill bit piece. And that's So hopefully you didn't make it too big, where it'll just fall right through. If you do, it's just a little bit more glue you have to add. Nothing big. Alright. So now we have our 2 individual pieces. And now we can begin assembling our piece. Okay, so what I like to do first is just add just a tiny little bit of glue just on this first edge right here. Not much, just enough where I can align these two together and they will essentially hold its shape. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a lot of glue here, realign this, push it nice and tight, let it cool, and hopefully add the top to it. And you want to make sure to add a bit of glue in these sections that aren't there, that doesn't have the extra wood there. That way, once the glue is dried and this is pushed down on it, all that glue makes a complete piece to help hold this area bonded together. Give it a good squeeze too. Keep in mind that you want this strip as close to the center as you possibly can. And then repeat. Now, remember, don't go just straight to town and start gluing this in this section. You want to make sure everything becomes lined up. Okay, so once that looks good, reglue this edge here. Really don't know why I took that out. Alright. So now what we're going to do is just line these up. Making sure everything is still kind of going to plan here. Now there should be enough good quarter of an inch that is exposed on both sides. That is what we are looking for. So you just kind of want to eyeball it, make sure it's pretty straight up. You have enough room on each side. And now we'll add a good amount of glue. Around each one of these to hold it in place. might just have a little scrap stick here just to kind of help maneuver this glue around if I need to. Now you can take your time, let it dry before you spin stuff. I'm just kind of here just showing a quick, easy way of doing it. So once these are pretty dry, that's where you can readjust this end, getting it as straight as you can, because this is the part that's going to be outside seen the most. And since this is where we grab a lot of the times, I will drop this end down just to get that glue in that little tiny where the wood's at. And since this one's a lot easier to get to, I'll also do just a little tiny bead of hot glue around the inside. So we're going to want to let that dry for about 5 minutes or so before we continue on with anything else. So coming up here in a few, what we're going to need is either a very tiny drill bit. I have a little tiny guy right there. Toothpick works best. If you're using thicker wood than what I've been using, matchsticks will work just fine for this. And also little tiny hinges here. What I have is 3/4 by 5/8 inch little hinges. These were about $3 at my local hardware store. That will make this little hinge here that is inside there help hold it together. The matchsticks or the toothpicks is what's going to hold these right here, keep them from busting up. And eventually we will be trimming off the excess here. Also, you're going to need either 4 drywall finish screws or nails. In this one I have nails. As you can see, they're flat here. But I also have a set of screws as well. And that is what we will be working on next. So let me give this a few minutes, get some more coffee in me, and we'll continue on.